Oh, hello everyone. Thanks for listening. Today I'm going to be going over whether Yeonmi Park exaggerates. Assessing whether Yeonmi Park is exaggerating wokeism is a complex and controversial issue, with critics arguing that she amplifies her criticisms to appeal to a conservative American audience, and others defending her as a legitimate critic of authoritarian-like ideologies. This debate involves examining her accounts of life in North Korea, her comparisons to American culture, and her alignment with conservative media. Arguments that she is exaggerating, inconsistencies in her story. The most significant criticism is that her accounts of life in North Korea have changed over time and contain numerous inconsistencies. In 2023, a Washington Post investigation found little truth to some of her claims, with other North Korean defectors and experts noting that she often alters her story depending on the audience, changing narratives for different audiences. Critics note a shift in her story after gaining fame. For instance, early TV appearances in South Korea included more details about a relatively privileged life in North Korea, which contrasted with the more harrowing details she later shared with Western audiences. Monetary and political incentives. Some suggest that her narratives have been shaped by the incentives of the American conservative media market. Her shocking stories of oppression are in high demand. She has reported a $500,000 book deal with a conservative imprint and is a paid contributor to the conservative group Turning Point USA. Hey, that's where Charlie Kirk was part of. All right, distorting American issues. Detractors argue that she compares genuine atrocities in North Korea to elements of American woke culture in a way that trivializes the human rights abuses suffered by North Koreans. For example, comparing gender-neutral pronouns to the lack of free speech under a dictatorship has been described by critics as a politically motivated exaggeration. Arguments that she is a legitimate critic. Survivor trauma and language barriers. Park and her supporters attribute inconsistencies in her story to trauma and memory issues from her escape and a past lack of fluency in English. A co-author of her memoir suggested that Park was a victim of a North Korean smear campaign. Comparing ideologies, not living standards. While she acknowledges that living standards in the U.S. are vastly different from North Korea, Park emphasizes the ideological similarities she perceives. She argues that the rigid conformity and intolerance of dissent she experienced in North Korea are mirrored in some extreme aspects of progressive American ideology, particularly in academia. Drawing on personal experience. Supporters emphasize that her critique is born from her lived experience of a totalitarian regime. Her comparisons, though jarring to some, are rooted in her fear that suppression of free thought can take root anywhere, even in a free society. Challenging the perception of oppression. She has argued that her experience of genuine oppression, including human trafficking, is dismissed by some on the American left because of her ethnicity, which she claims is perceived as white passing. This, she argues, demonstrates a racialized and distorted view of victimhood. Conclusion. There is no consensus on whether Yeonmi Park is exaggerating wokeism. The assessment largely depends on individual interpretation of her shifting narratives and her motivations. For critics, the inconsistencies in financial incentives suggest exaggeration and a desire to serve a particular political market. For supporters, her comparisons are a valid critique born from her unique experiences escaping a truly totalitarian state. Thanks for listening, everyone. Hope you learned something. I know I've been learning from this, so thank you. Take care.